Good afternoon. Thanks for joining us. Across the Fence, I'm Fran Stoddard. With Halloween approaching, a long-standing Vermont tradition is gearing up for another year. Nightmare Vermont provides for some spooky October entertainment, and at the same time, it raises money for a good cause, Camp Exclamation Point. Rebecca Gollin takes us behind the scenes to rehearsals for Nightmare Vermont.
Autumn in Vermont brings crisp air, changing leaves, and apple cider. But for some, the fall season means only one thing.
Your inner monster is really just a version of your inner child.
That's right, it's Halloween. And these monsters in training take it pretty seriously.
Every monster does something different. Some of us are voiceless right now because they've been doing a lot of growling and snapping at people.
When you snap out and you start backing her up, okay, that's you snapping. Okay, so it's
this is a rehearsal for Nightmare Vermont, an interactive haunted house that's been running since 2004. The endeavor is a fundraiser for several local organizations, as well as a summer camp for underserved Vermont youth. It was the brainchild of director Jana Beagley.
There's a couple of things that keep me coming back. One is I really love the weird community that forms around Nightmare. We're a collection of people from all different walks of life, all different talents, and we come together, and for a lot of the people who are Nightmarians, which is what we call them, this is the first place where some of their darker elements or their weirder elements have really found a home.
And the other thing that keeps Beagley coming back?
And the other thing is the screaming. I love hearing people screaming. It's really just, it warms the cockles of my cold, cold heart.
There's just something thrilling, one, about hearing the scream and hearing that terror, but even more than that, right afterwards, when you hear those stories people talk about, when you're sitting there and someone is just like, oh my God, I was so scared, and it just kind of almost brings them together, and they have these great memories. And I think it's really cool to give people those experiences.
It is a 4-foot drop. So some of you will be just jumping straight down 4 feet. Those of you who feel comfortable with it. Others will do a hand plant, and others will help people down.
Timothy Cray teaches the volunteers how to be convincing and safety-conscious monsters. One way they do that is by playing a version of Monster Tag.
I played a lot of games with them with the flags, and really teaching them how to, where the flags would be, what people would do, how to deal with people that are stuck against the walls, the kind of things that we knew were going to happen safety-wise. And then once we got that down, then we talked about, how do you walk? You're a creature from another planet, from another universe. You're going to move a little different. What noises do you make?
We focus on one body part. So some of us will go at people's shoulder first, or we'll lean forward. There's a bunch of different ways.
Cray teaches his monsters to have individual traits, but also work together as a unit. The final result is effective, which is just what these performers want.
It gives me the sense of satisfaction. I remember growing up, my mom would take me to haunted houses all the time. And I remember one year I left crying. And that was the year that I was like, I want to do this when I'm older.
This year I am playing Dr. Wasserman, kind of a big bad evil character. I also designed the sound and lights, and I will be running the sound and lights during the show.
This is UVM student Stephen Indrisano's fourth year volunteering with the show. A senior with a double major in theater and psychology, Indrisano came to college expecting to be pre-med. His first stint with Nightmare Vermont made him rethink that plan.
Nightmare Vermont is kind of responsible for me getting back into theater. I came to college thinking I was going to be a doctor, which turned out to not be the case. So I came to auditions first year thinking it would be a fun Halloween-y thing to do, and I just got sucked right back in. So it was just a great way for me to be able to practice my design and technical work while also doing something that I love. And it's for charity, so like, what's not to love?
And while the theme of the show changes every year, Beagley promises at least one thing will remain the same.
The only thing that we can guarantee you is that somebody will scream, and something is evil.
Bringing thrills and chills to the community in order to benefit kids from around Vermont. This group of ghouls is ready for Halloween. In Essex, I'm Rebecca Gullen with Across the Fence.
The 2019 version of Nightmare Vermont has several shows starting October 17th. For more information and tickets, go to nightmarevermont.org. Town forests are a point of pride in communities across the Northeast, and now some town forests are getting help to develop plans for the future that are uniquely tailored to each community. Keith Silva tells us more.
Boston, recently Corinth.
The entries in the guest book prove that visitors come from near and far to hike Wrights Mountain in Bradford. Nancy Jones chairs the Bradford Conservation Commission.
My experience has been that it's very important to the people of Bradford. It's a wonderful resource, and educators and families are taking advantage of it.
3.5 miles of trails crisscross 517 acres of this town forest. At an elevation of 1,822 feet, Wrights Mountain is the highest peak in Bradford. The view of the Waits River Valley from the summit is as thrilling as venturing into Devil's Den, a shallow cave on the property. Not long ago, the Bradford Conservation Commission, an all-volunteer group who oversees the property, created a trail map. They got sponsorships from local businesses to offset the cost. Jones thinks more can be done.
We already have a lot of visitors coming to the mountain, as our guest book attests, and we have to believe that many of those people are going into town to get lunch or to go shopping or even to stay somewhere close by. So we feel that this is an economic boon to the town, but we'd like to be able to gain some data and some evidence to document this.
I think actually what our next step is going to be is Drew.
Bradford is one of 10 town forests selected to take part in the Vermont Town Forest Recreation Planning Community Assistance Program. Each community will receive help to develop town forest recreation and stewardship action plans. Kate Fora is an outreach specialist with Vermont Urban and Community Forestry and UVM Extension. She's helping spearhead this effort.
This project really came out of a need that we heard from communities. A lot of them are really struggling with how to balance the growing interest and the growing use of town forests around the state. We used to say that town forests were kind of Vermont's best hidden secret, or were Vermont's best secret. And unfortunately or fortunately, the secret seems to be out. So we're seeing a lot more interest and use in these properties.
A town forest is land that's owned and managed by a town. There are 168 municipalities in Vermont that are responsible for about 68,000 acres of town forest. For the folks in Bradford, they see Wrights Mountain as a possible engine for economic development, but not if it's at the expense of the resource itself.
This is a multi-use parcel. It's not just for recreation, it's for wildlife preservation, it's for forestry, it's for education. And we don't want any of those to sacrifice by promoting more recreation and more economic benefits to the town. We want to be informed, and we want to make informed decisions and wise decisions about uses of this beautiful land.
I was looking to see if I could show you a fingernail clam.
Brett Engstrom heads the stewardship committee that manages the Virginia Stranahan Memorial Town Forest in Marshfield. A little over 50 miles separates Marshfield and Bradford, but the two communities are connected when it comes to their passion for their town forest.
I'm proud to say that Marshfield has this public land available to people that can come and use it in different ways. And if they want to come out and look at the old stone foundations, and imagine what this place was like 100 years ago, that's wonderful. And it's wonderful if people like to come and bike a little ways, or if they just want to walk and go down to one of the beaver ponds and bird watch. And it's all here. And such a wonderful resource.
Given the diversity of habitats and uses for the town forest in Marshfield, the watchword for Engstrom is balance.
We have all these uses for the town forest, and we need to make sure that we honor the easement, conservation easement, which is to protect the natural resources. But we have different people wanting different recreation types, and it's a balancing act, and we want to get as much information as possible to make good decisions on management.
For Engstrom, stewardship of this town forest goes hand in hand with civic responsibility.
As a committee, we have to grapple with, well, is that good for the forest? Is that an acceptable for everybody involved? Do the hikers like the fact that there are a lot of biking trails? How will it damage the forest soils? I mean, biking trails have an impact for sure. And so we're trying to take that all in and figure out, well, how can we proceed, allow people to recreate and in different ways in the same property.
The Marshfield Stewardship Committee follows best management practices to oversee the forest. What they need from the consultants are best management practices for engaging their fellow citizens.
We're just townspeople. The Stewardship Committee is just 7 people that is trying to help the town figure out how to best manage this. What is the best way to get public input into a planning process? So we really want help with how do you make a public process and get information, and then once you have the information, how do we incorporate that into our management plan for the property?
Marshfield, Bradford, and the other communities taking part in this program are setting an example that town forests are a shared resource for Vermont's people and places. In Marshfield, I'm Keith Silva with Across the Fence.
Thank you, Keith. And once again, thank you for joining us Across the Fence. I'm Fran Stoddard.